It's the awakening ceremony at the Hunter's Academy, and Su Ming already knows how this is going to go. He stands in the crowd, watching the top students step forward one after another. First girl steps to the awakening portal, and blue light bursts out. She gets a 7-star necromancer rare profession, and the whole academy erupts in shock. When the next student steps up, the portal shifts to purple. It's even rarer. He awakens as a magic hammer warrior, and all the students are losing their minds at how lucky this rich bastard is. Then it's Su Ming's turn. He walks forward, and nobody expects anything from him. Just another orphan. Just another background nobody. He places his hand on the portal, and then the entire thing turns red. A massive wave of energy explodes out, and the entire academy can't believe their eyes. Even the director can't understand what he's seeing, because this level of reaction has never been seen before. And that's when Su Ming realizes it. Something from his past life is still with him. The divine artifact he once obtained has followed him into this life. Because of it, the system responds differently, and he awakens the mythical profession. A sword god, and a 10-star rating appears above the portal. Everyone is hyped to see what profession he got. But in the next moment, the displayed job title everyone can see shows Sword Controller, weak, low-tier trash job. The mood in the academy shifts immediately. Whispers start spreading, then students just start laughing at him. An orphan awakening trash. Nothing surprising. But Su Ming just turns away and walks off like he expected this. Because he did it on purpose. He changed the job title with his skill to hide his true power for now. Only one person doesn't laugh, Ji Yao. She walks up to him and sincerely congratulates him, like she actually sees something others don't. And for Su Ming, that moment hits differently, because in his past life, she was the only one who ever stood by him, the only one who tried to help him when everyone else betrayed him. Back then, after he solo defeated the final boss, the people he trusted most turned on him. His scumbag best friend and the bitch of a girlfriend he once believed in. Together they betrayed him just to steal divine artifact he had earned. But this time it would be different. Su Ming remembers everything, and in this life, he's not giving them the chance to do it again. He prepares himself for the beginner dungeon trial happening the next day, determined to hunt the most difficult boss to level up quickly. Meanwhile, a darker plot is unfolding in a luxury room where Jiang Tang and Ren Xiaoman are together. Jiang Tang is furious that Su Ming stole his spotlight at the ceremony, but Xiaoman calms him down with a predatory smile. She suggests that they can still use Su Ming's high attributes for their own gain by luring him in and forcing him to work for them. Because he is focused on preparing for the upcoming dungeon, Su Ming heads to a high-end weapon shop where he encounters crowds of students marveling at a blue display case. They are all staring at the Frost Heaven Cold Sword, a weapon touted as a diamond-rank masterpiece capable of freezing a monster's blood. While the others are intimidated by its $1 million price tag, our hero isn't fooled for a second, knowing from his past life that this is a fake weapon sold by scam merchants who were eventually arrested. As he turns to leave, he is intercepted by Jiang Lan, the vice director of the Jiang'an Financial Group, who is flanked by professional bodyguards. She attempts to recruit him by offering to cover all his shopping expenses in exchange for a favor. One of her bodyguards shows him a photo of her sister, Zhang Yunqing, and explains that since only newly awakened students can enter the beginner dungeon, they need someone with 10-star talent to act as her protector. Our protagonist immediately refuses the offer, showing zero interest in being a tool for the wealthy. When Zhanglan tries to shame him for being a poor student and pressures him to reconsider his status, the swordmaster decides to test her bluff. He points directly at the fake $1 million sword and tells her he'll take that one. Due to the price being so astronomical for a single bodyguard job, the director's team becomes outraged at his arrogance. Su Ming uses this moment to teach her a lesson, walking away while telling her that some things can't be bought with money, and that her sister should focus on her own efforts instead of shortcuts. This bold move leaves the crowd stunned that a student would dare play a major financial group like that. Shortly after, Su Ming's phone vibrates with a familiar message from Ren Xiaoman. She uses the exact same manipulation tactics from his previous life, claiming she has changed her mind and wants to see him on the school rooftop. Recognizing the trap immediately, he agrees to meet her, ready to finally confront her on his own terms. Just before exiting the store, the protagonist makes his way toward a counter piled with dark, jagged rocks known as weapon stone blanks. These items are essentially a gamble, as they typically only yield low-rank garbage, but the clerk warns him to choose carefully since the probability of success is extremely low. However, he isn't actually gambling because he has activated a legendary skill called Insight Eye. This ability provides him with a specialized interface that allows him to see through the material to perceive the fundamental information of any object. Because he can see the internal data of the stones, he realizes he can bypass overpriced silver rank gear and instead spend a mere 50 coins to secure a high-quality weapon. While he is holding his chosen stone, he is spotted by a group of mocking students led by a spoiled rich kid named Yang Ding. Having dealt with this bully's harassment in his past life, Su Ming decides to turn the situation to his advantage. He challenges the group to a bet, wagering 5,000 descent coins that his garbage stone will produce a silver rank weapon. Yang Ding and his friends burst into laughter, believing the odds are entirely in their favor, since there is a 99.99% chance of failure. They mockingly agree to the deal, expecting the poor student to cough up the cash when he fails. In response, our protagonist simply activates his skill and orders the stone to open. As the rock shatters, the bully's laughter instantly dies as a dark metallic blade appears. The system confirms that Su Ming has obtained the Black Iron Crimson Edge Sword, a silver-grade weapon with a unique Blood Drinker affix. This special attribute allows the sword to absorb blood from wounded monsters to heal the swordmaster's own injuries. While Yang Ding and his companions stare with their mouths wide open in disbelief, our hero catches his new weapon, satisfied that he now has a top-tier blade. Yang Ding can only stare in disbelief, muttering about how the hero must have just gotten lucky. Su Ming calmly inspects the weight and edge of the tool, noting that its built-in lifesteal effect is a massive advantage as it eliminates the need to hire a healer. A system notification confirms he has obtained a silver-grade mystical steel sword with a 10-point lifesteal bonus. Yang Ding remains visibly furious and frustrated, but our hero turns the cold blade toward him and demands the 5,000 descent coins from their bet. As the swordmaster walks away, a notification pops up to confirm the funds have been transferred. Although Yang Ding shouts threats after him, the protagonist simply warns him not to bet so casually with people in the future. Nearby, the shop clerk expresses her shock, explaining that no one has successfully pulled a weapon from those stone blanks in years. Because he now has the capital, our boy approaches the counter to purchase a sword sheath for exactly 5,000 coins. The clerk leads him to the display where he secures his new weapon into an ornate silver-grade sheath. This accessory is vital given that it reduces weapon durability consumption by 50%, which is crucial since he lacks the funds for a replacement. While the system prompts him to activate a manifestation function, he declines, intending to upgrade the weapon even further before the next day. Later, as students play basketball under a bright campus sky, our hero reflects on his growth. He realizes that while his sword lord job lacked starting skills, it provided a mythical talent called All Things Ascend. This golden rank power allows him to upgrade the quality of any combat loot once. To test this, he focuses his energy on his blade, triggering a massive surge of power that transforms the steel into a blood-red color. The result is the mystical Steel Blood Oath Sword, a silver upper-grade weapon that heals the wielder upon contact and provides a temporary 5-point attribute boost after every kill. Satisfied with this lethal upgrade, he activates a hidden manifestation function, confident that the beginner dungeon will now be much easier to conquer. As night falls over the city, Su Ming heads to a high rooftop where Ren Xiaoman is waiting with a casual smile. She complains that he is late, but the hero responds by drawing his sword with a violent motion. The girl flinches in terror, demanding to know what he is doing. Looking at her with murderous intent, our protagonist explains that he has come for revenge. Xiaoman is genuinely bewildered, claiming she only came as she accepted his romantic confession and wanted to date him. She even shows him their old text messages to prove they were a couple. Our hero views her drama with total apathy, noting that those memories belong to a past life. He recalls how, as a lonely orphan, he was easily manipulated by her feigned concern and the care he had longed for since childhood. He realizes now that their intimate interactions and his most precious memories were all part of a lie. He yells at her, exposing the dirty dealings she has with Zhang Tang and accusing them of just using his talent. When Xiaoman tries to maintain her innocent act, he shuts her down by calling her a vain and despicable person. This causes her facade to snap, and she reveals a venomous, hateful glare. She screams that he is just a worthless orphan whose only value was his talent, threatening that she and Zhang Tang will never let him go. Su Ming remains unfazed, suggesting she should worry more about her own ruined reputation. Desperate, Xiaoman lunges at him with a hidden blade, but the swordmaster easily sidesteps the attack. He notes that she is still obsessed with ambushing people, but he has already anticipated her move. The protagonist swings his blood-red sword in a swift arc, triggering the Blood Drinker effect. A spray of red energy slashes across Xiaoman's face, leaving her screaming on her knees as she realizes she is permanently scarred. Su Ming stands over her without an ounce of pity, declaring that her downfall is her own making. Now that he is preparing to leave her broken on the roof, he tells her to inform Zhang Tang that he is ready for whatever revenge they plan. He reflects that this single strike has finally severed the lingering feelings and the care he once treasured. As he walks away, a system menu appears with a rewards package from the academy. He receives a fortifying pill, a combat uniform, and 10,000 descent coins. A message from Principal Wang accompanies the gift, expressing hope that their 10-star student will achieve excellent results in the upcoming beginner dungeon trial. Later, Su Ming stands before the dungeon entrance, marking the start of his true challenge. He understands that this environment offers both extreme danger and rare opportunities for those who can survive it. While most warriors aim for standard contribution points by hunting ordinary bosses, our hero knows there is a far more difficult path with much better rewards. Since he is determined to surpass his past life, he decides to ignore the easy route and focus entirely on slaying the ultimate hidden boss. The The setting shifts to the Raging Forest, an F-grade dungeon filled with blue-tinted foliage and strange creatures. As our protagonist steps through the portal, he notices that the map is completely different from the one he encountered 18 years ago. This is due to the fact the beginner dungeon is randomly generated every year, meaning all spawn points and routes are entirely unpredictable. Despite this change, he remains focused, knowing that the specific monsters inhabiting the woods will also be different this time around. While scouting the area, Su-ming spots a massive elite monster that looks like a gnarled flaming tree. He stays hidden in the shadows as he knows that if this creature's vines lock onto a target, it will drag them into its burning hollow to be roasted alive. To avoid unnecessary trouble, he checks his holographic map and marks a specific landmark. He intentionally rushed to be the first person inside the dungeon so that he could scout the route and collect 3 specific items needed to trigger the hidden boss before the crowds arrive to complicate things. Even though the layout of the forest has shifted, our protagonist is confident because the core strategy for the boss remains the same. As the clock hits 7:30 in the morning, other students begin to filter into the portal. A blue-haired girl and her companion enter nervously, hoping the quiet atmosphere means the area is safe. Unfortunately, the ground begins to rumble, and they spot a terrified student with a spear sprinting toward them for help. Their fear turns to horror as red-eyed, bloodlust mad rats emerge from the ridge. Given that the threat is too overwhelming, the students are forced to split up and flee for their lives. Outside the dungeon, a real-time report appears on the academy grounds, delivering grim news only 1 minute after the students entered. It reveals that 3 challengers, including a high-ranking 6-star awakener, have already been killed by the rats. Ren Xiaoman watches these reports with a grim expression, realizing that the casualties are mounting before she has even finished forming her own team. This prompts the remaining crowd to start shouting for everyone to form groups faster, now that the people already inside are clearly desperate for help. Back inside the forest, the blue-haired girl finds herself completely isolated and lost. While she struggles to catch her breath, she is unaware that she is being watched by a massive ape-like monster lurking in the trees above. The creature suddenly drops down and prepares to crush her with a heavy fist. Just as the girl screams for help, Su-ming intervenes with his blood-red sword. He executes a series of violent red slashes in a circular motion, ripping through the beast instantly. Our hero lands gracefully between the girl and the threat, his grip firm on his blade as the force of his strike blows the monster backward. The situation elsewhere in the dungeon is far more desperate. Because of the high difficulty, a male student lies trembling on the ground while a massive level 5 bloodlust brown bear looms over him. Another student sprints away in a panic, cursing his bad luck for running into an elite monster so early in the trial. The chaos continues as one boy screams while a long-tongued swamp hunter lunges at him, and a blue-haired student runs frantically from a pack of level 3 tracking hounds. This student desperately uses a communication device to report that the teleport points at nearly every position on the map are surrounded by an endless wave of monsters. Back in the shadows, the purple-haired girl checks her team status screen and realizes with horror that her entire 5-man squad has been wiped out. Since her teammates sacrificed themselves to let her hide, she is the only survivor, and she begins to cry as she wonders if any newly awakened player can actually survive this dungeon. Her despair is interrupted by a sudden burst of energy as red slashes fill the air once more. Su-ming performs a high-speed maneuver and lands directly in front of her, obliterating the monster that was threatening her. The girl is amazed that he killed the creature in a single hit and asks if he is the famous 10-star Su-ming. The boy looks back with a serious expression, explaining that he was simply passing through and warns her that he cannot save her a second time. Because the threat is still active, the girl quickly runs off to find reinforcements, urging Su-ming to hang in there. Our protagonist then activates his Insight Eye skill, which projects an icon and scans a massive ape-like creature. This reveals that the beast is a level 3 mutant ape king, with high strength and constitution. Su-ming realizes that because this is a mutated boss, it managed to survive several hits from his silver-grade weapon. As the creature roars and lunges, our hero easily dodges the attack and notes that the monster is surprisingly fast. Since he is feeling competitive, he decides to have a speed contest. He accesses his system interface, reflecting on the powers he inherited from his past life as a godslayer. He selects his third skill, Divine Step, which increases his speed by 50% and provides total immunity to all attacks during activation. Surrounded with a vibrant blue aura, the Swordmaster accelerates instantly and vanishes, reappearing right behind the confused beast. Now that the monster is far too slow to keep up, our boy becomes bored with the fight. He decides he is done playing and swings his sword in a massive arc, unleashing a wave of energy that cleaves through the mutant ape king. A notification confirms the kill as the monster dissolves into red particles, and the system rewards the hero with a bronze-grade horizontal/skill scroll. Although it is a low-grade item, he knows it is still useful for a beginner area. Suddenly, an announcement appears in the sky for all players to see, declaring that a level 2 Swordmaster has achieved the first kill of a mutant ape king and earned the title of First Blood. The other students in the dungeon look up in disbelief, shocked that someone has already taken down a mutant boss. As a result of this achievement, every player in the dungeon receives a small healing potion as a reward. The girl holds her potion with relief, knowing she desperately needed to restore her health. Meanwhile, other students debate the identity of the mysterious player. While some are certain it must be the 10-star Su Ming from the First Academy, others argue it could be a different swordmaster from a neighboring city. Regardless of the rumors, the successful kill provides a surge of hope, proving to the terrified students that they actually have the strength to clear the challenge alive. Meanwhile, Su Ming realizes that the in-game title system could expose his true strength to everyone. He decides to be careful and use his full concealment skill ahead of time to edit and hide his personal information. He is quite surprised that even though 30 minutes have passed since the dungeon opened, not a single other player has managed to kill a monster yet. As he runs through the forest, he suddenly stops upon noticing movement to his right. Two hungry gray wolves emerge from the foliage, but our hero remains completely calm as he reaches for his sword hilt. He recognizes them as classic starter-level monsters and decides they are the perfect targets to test his new sword technique. The forest air fills with blood as Su Ming performs a high-speed slash, instantly slicing the wolves apart and earning 80 experience points. This begins a relentless slaughter as the boy leaves a trail of carcasses behind him, eventually eliminating 100 wolves and amassing thousands of experience points. By 9:30 in the morning, he has already reached level 9. The system rewards his efficiency with a new title, identifying him as a legend of the hungry wolves. Su Ming takes a moment to breathe, satisfied with his success. He reflects on how using the ranged property of his draw slash makes farming these low-level enemies much faster, since the energy builds up within the sheath over time before being released. He narrows his eyes and locks onto a new group of targets, delivering a horizontal draw that erupts in a massive crescent of blue slash to obliterate them all at once. Deep in another part of the forest, the ground begins to shake as a massive, red-eyed mutant wolf king lets out a thunderous roar. While this level 10 leader monster glares toward our hero, the story briefly shifts back to an hour earlier when other students were first forming their parties. Jiao leads her group through the portal, followed closely by several other eager teams. These students find themselves in a chaotic struggle, desperately counterattacking waves of monsters while waiting for reinforcements. A blue-haired student manages to stab a mutant field rat, and the party cheers with relief, believing they can finally win and keep up with the mysterious player who achieved the first kill. However, their celebration is cut short by a global announcement in the sky. It reveals that a level 9 player with the Fisherman job has achieved the first kill of a leader monster and earned a new title. The students are shocked as they cannot believe a life skill class could be so powerful and reach level 9 so quickly. 10 minutes prior to this announcement, Su Ming had leaped high into the air, descending upon the Wolf King with his sword. He mocks the beast's status as a leader, reminding it that his true power comes from being a reborn player. He lands a devastating blow that shatters the Wolf King into fragments, granting him 500 experience points and pushing him to level 10. Along with increased skill proficiency, he loots a Wolf King heart and an iron-cleaving claw bone. Nearby, the bully Yang Ding is panting and covered in dirt, having barely survived a pack of normal wolves. His teammate credits their survival to a dungeon reward scroll they received, but Yang Ding is consumed by rage. He is convinced the dungeon is bugged because he cannot understand how a fisherman reached level 9 while he is only at level 2. He throws his basic hatchet to the ground in frustration, blaming his slow progress on the fact that he was scammed out of his money at the weapon shop and couldn't buy silver-grade gear. He lashes out at his teammates for being freeloaders and secretly hopes he runs into Su Ming so that he can crush him to vent his anger. Meanwhile, our hero crouches in the brush and opens his system interface. Now that he has reached level 10, he has triggered his primary job change quest. He realizes this is a major turning point because in his past life, he didn't reach this level until after leaving the beginner area, which forced him to complete a lower value quest at level 15. This time, since he is still in the Raging Forest, the system assigns him to kill the guardian of the Red Rock Cavern. Su Ming is pleased that the quest is located right inside the beginner dungeon, making his path forward much easier. To prepare, he allocates all his new stat points into agility. Due to his agility breaking through the 100 mark, he unlocks a platinum-grade passive skill called Sword Mastery. This powerful ability allows him to equip any sword-type weapon regardless of its level requirements, essentially guaranteeing his success in the upcoming challenge. Back at the First Academy in Xuanjing City, the atmosphere in the command center is thick with tension, as staff monitor the live ranking lists for the beginner dungeon. Large holographic screens display the top performers from various instances, but a major problem emerges when Principal Wang notices a glaring absence in the data. Because he had pinned all his hopes on Su Ming, he is deeply concerned to see that the 10-star genius isn't even ranked in the top 500. A staff member tries to reassure him by pointing out that a swordmaster did secure a first kill title earlier that morning, which likely belongs to Su Ming. but this does little to ease the principal's mind. He wonders how a student with perfect innate attributes and a starter gift pack could be struggling this much, assuming that even with poor skills, the boy should have been able to brute force his way into the rankings. The situation takes a turn for the worse when the deputy mayor of the city, and Ranling, bursts into the room in a fit of rage. He demands to know why the school's highly touted prospect is nowhere to be found on the leaderboards, accusing Principal Wang of inflating the boy's strength just to secure more resources for the school. Although the principal tries to explain that the Swordmaster job has a notoriously weak early-stage combat power, the deputy mayor refuses to listen to excuses. He points out that other students like the demon hunter Yan Ze and the warrior Jiang Tang are already performing at an elite level. As a direct result of the school's perceived failure, the deputy mayor decides to slash their allocation of Tower Society qualification tokens from 3 down to 2. This is a devastating blow, since losing these tokens threatens the Academy's future ability to participate in high-level quests and growth opportunities. Unaware of the political firestorm he has caused, Su Ming arrives at the entrance of the Red Rock Cavern to begin his job change quest. He navigates through the dark rock formations, feeling fortunate that he avoided any major distractions on the way. Since he never explored this specific area in his past life, he is cautious as he enters the damp interior. His presence is immediately challenged by a blue-skinned gold digger goblin, which he dispatches with a single lightning-fast strike of his blade. Unfortunately, this quick kill backfires by triggering a cave-wide awareness notification. The system activates a specialized goblin mode, signaling that every monster in the cavern is now launching an organized assault on his position. Suddenly, the silence of the cave is replaced by the deafening sound of skittering feet as a massive horde of goblins led by a towering elite commander emerges from the shadows. The system explains that these creatures operate with a greedy and sloppy nature, yet they prove to be surprisingly tactical in their movements. As Su Ming engages the swarm, he begins to worry about his weapon's durability and his limited mana pool. He realizes he cannot rely on his high-speed divine step for a long-term battle, especially when the goblins begin firing volleys of arrows to catch him while he is mid-air and vulnerable. Because he currently lacks a wide variety of early-stage skills, taking this many enemies head-on is a genuine challenge even for a swordmaster of his caliber. To compensate for his lack of resources, the boy decides to switch to a more flexible strategy. He leaps across the cavern walls to stay mobile and lure the horde in, maintaining a dark and confident smile as he prepares to thin out the ranks of his organized attackers. Later, he stands before a snarling pack of goblins and mockingly offers them a small gift. He immediately unleashes a series of rapid, crescent-shaped energy slashes that tear through the monster horde. This energy arcs across the space and shreds the enemies, leaving behind trails of blood as the goblins are completely obliterated in a whirlwind of steel. Because he holds the high ground, Su Ming is able to secure an easy win and bring out the full advantage of his draw slash. Our boy calmly walks across the damp floor. He notes that the cave is now littered with corpses and realizes that only one creature is left standing. He looks toward the massive, slumped body of the elite goblin boss he has just defeated. Meanwhile, outside the cavern in the raging forest, a bald student pushes through the thick grass and points toward the cave entrance. He tells Yang Ding and his group that he heard fighting coming from inside that specific spot while he was scouting. Yang Ding dismisses the claim as a joke, arguing that since the system notes the monsters here are level 7 and above, nobody would dare challenge the place yet. However, the bald student remains nervous because of the battle sounds he heard, and they both stop when they hear footsteps echoing from the dark entrance. As a figure emerges from the mist, the group wonders who would dare farm here, only to realize it is the same brat who beat Yang Ding in the weapon bet. Our hero walks out with his hands in his pockets and ignores the group for a moment while looking at the sky. He has reached level 11 and reflects on how his first job change quest was risky, but turned out fine. Suddenly, Yang Ding lunges forward with a weapon swing, but Su Ming effortlessly sidesteps the attack. This failure causes Yang Ding's face to contort with rage, and he orders his lackeys to surround the protagonist so that he can't get away. Even though the team encircles him with weapons drawn, our boy remains completely unfazed and clarifies that he never intended to run. Yang Ding shouts that the hero made him take a huge financial loss and should blame his bad luck for being caught in the dungeon. Su Ming seems genuinely confused and asks who these people are, which causes a wave of embarrassment for the bullies. A lackey realizes the hero totally forgot about them, while Yang Ding screams that he shouldn't have forgotten the 5,000 coins he lost. Due to this insult, Yang Ding signals his team to charge and take him down. Our hero calmly remarks that forgetting someone is no reason to get violent and decides it is the perfect time to test a new skill. Su Ming flashes a dark smile and holds out his hand as a small artifact begins to pulse. He triggers a massive area of effect attack that sends energy rings expanding from his body. This strike hits all the students simultaneously and sends them flying to the ground in pain. Our hero considers the test a huge success and then extends his palm toward his sword, causing it to levitate. Yang Ding is blown backward by the pressure and stammers in disbelief, realizing that Su Ming is using sword control. He knows this is a skill that swordmasters usually don't learn until much later in their journey. As the blade flies through the air on its own with streaks of red light, Su Ming explains to himself that this was originally a silver-grade skill scroll dropped by the elite goblin. Because of his All Things Ascend talent, he was able to upgrade it to a gold-grade version that fits his style perfectly. He is pleased with this outcome since word will now spread that his job is just a standard swordmaster, helping him keep his mythical status hidden. After clearing the cavern, a golden holographic screen appears to show that he has obtained a hidden blueprint for a final reward chest. However, Su Ming stares at the coordinates with a drop of sweat on his head because the treasure is hidden even deeper in a second part of the cave involving goblin commerce and lifestyle. Later that morning at 11:30, a fire erupts in a different part of the forest. A group of female students cheers because they have successfully cleared all the monsters in their area together. One student credits their survival to Fenfen, their 7-star awakener, and suggests they go split the loot. Fenfen smiles and asks one of her teammates if she is too tired, but the teammate seems distracted. Suddenly, Fenfen's expression shifts to confusion as a thick mist swirls around the clearing. She begins to panic and spins around, realizing that one of her teammates has completely vanished even though she was just standing there. She looks at the empty ground and realizes that since the area was supposed to be clear, there should be nothing there. Fenfen's eyes widen in pure terror as a sharp sound echoes behind her, and she screams as she realizes her friend is actually gone. As Su Ming finishes reviewing the bizarre lore surrounding the local monsters, he finds himself genuinely disgusted by their reproductive biology. Since these goblins have such a short growth cycle and a desperate need to maintain their birth rate, they are known to kidnap female creatures of any species to sustain their population. Su Ming finds this information so strange that he begins running through the forest with a look of intense repulsion, questioning why the settings for this creature are so much more graphic in this life than in his previous one. He eventually stops in a misty clearing and consults his holographic map to confirm he has reached the correct coordinates. At first, he is confused as the area is empty and contains nothing but trees. He questions if the coordinates are wrong since there is no sign of a cavern anywhere in the woods. Suddenly, the ground beneath his feet erupts in a violent explosion of dust and debris. As the smoke settles, he realizes he was being too literal. Given that the location is called Red Rock Cavern Part 2, most warriors would assume it was another mountain cave, but the Swordmaster understands that this specific challenge is combined with the element of buried treasure. This leads him to discover a massive underground den filled with fire and rising smoke. He notes that the location is actually a hidden pit, and the monsters are clever enough to use the thick smoke to camouflage the entrance from the surface. As he peers over the ledge with an intense gaze, he observes a lone goblin wandering below. Su Ming reminds himself that the social structure of these creatures means that killing even a single one will alert the entire den. Intending to be stealthy for the sake of the treasure, he is suddenly interrupted by the sight of two female students trapped in the smoke and surrounded by a mob. Su Ming realizes these challengers were ambushed by the smoke trap and notes that the goblins are acting just as predatory as their lore suggested. As he watches from the shadows of the ledge, he sees a student named Jiang Yunqing cowering against a wall while holding her staff. She is visibly terrified as the monsters snarl at her. Initially, our protagonist decides to be cold and detached, thinking that her presence is actually a perfect distraction. He believes that if the goblins are busy killing her, it will be much easier for him to dig up his treasure without being noticed. He justifies this by telling himself she should have known better than to enter a dungeon she didn't have the strength to handle. However, the girl begins to scream in total desperation, promising a massive reward to anyone who saves her. When she shouts that her sister is the vice director of the Zhong'an Financial Group, Su Ming's eyes widen in surprise. He recognizes the name and realizes she is the younger sister of the woman who tried to hire him earlier. Just as two goblins leap at the girl with their claws bared, the Swordmaster intervenes. He uses his sword control skill to send his blade spinning through the air, trailing red energy as it slams into the ground to create a protective barrier. He then prepares his signature draw/technique. As he unsheathes the blade, it releases a massive explosion that fills the entire underground chamber. This is a strategic move, as he is exploiting the fact that goblins live in dark tunnels and are naturally weak against intense light. With the monsters completely disoriented and blinded, Su Ming is able to walk right past them without having to kill a single one. This prevents him from triggering the den's alarm system, ensuring the rest of the horde doesn't chase them. Jiang Yunqing is breathless and exhausted, but she manages to thank her savior and introduce herself. Our protagonist looks at her and remembers the photo her sister showed him, confirming her identity. Despite her gratitude and her repeated promises of a financial reward, the swordmaster remains distant. He tells her he was simply passing through and warns her not to follow him. He makes it clear that he has already saved her once, and that her lack of strength will only drag him down if she stays with him. The girl is too afraid to be left alone, so she follows him quietly as he checks his map one last time. He finds a specific patch of ground and confirms that the blinded goblins haven't followed them. Beneath the dirt, he discovers a large wooden treasure chest. This is a silver-quality random lottery chest, which is considered the highest possible drop for this dungeon level. Su Ming decides to maximize his luck by activating his All Things Ascend talent. As he touches the wood, it erupts in a brilliant golden glow and transforms into a gold lower-grade lottery chest. Zhang Yunqing watches in awe as the chest begins a slot machine-style animation. Su Ming explains to himself that these lottery chests are valuable due to a high probability of yielding items far above the current dungeon rank. As the light fades, 2 high-tier rewards appear before him. A system notification confirms that he has successfully obtained the Shadow Flow armor set and a Soul Healer skill scroll. But his initial excitement turns to confusion since the rewards feel mismatched. While the armor appears sturdy and useful, the Platinum-grade Soul Healer skill scroll is a specialized support item that doesn't align with his offensive swordmaster job. He wonders why his hard work on the job change quest resulted in such a specific drop, until he notices Zhang Yunqing acting shyly nearby. With her revealing that her awakened job is actually a 7-star soul healer, the mystery of the drop is solved. The system immediately registers their proximity and forms a party, appointing Su Ming as the leader. The focus shifts to a violent scene elsewhere in the forest at Naino, where a red-haired student from a rival city is committing a brutal massacre. This savage warrior is working on a dark job change quest that requires him to kill 50 other players. Having already claimed 33 lives, he mockingly declares that the weak have no place in this world and sets his sights on his next target. He corners Ji Yao, who is already exhausted and bruised from the hunt. Her skeleton summon lies shattered on the ground, proving how much she has struggled to stay alive. By 12:30, Ji Yao is barely able to breathe as the shadow of the red-haired killer looms over her. The attacker is actually impressed that she lasted so long, noting that while she has skill, she is still just a student from the Xuanjing Academy, which he considers full of trash. When Ji Yao demands to know why a student from the neighboring Wuyang city would invade their dungeon to kill innocents, the villain explains his cold logic. As his level 10 quest requires 50 player kills, he chose to fly his private jet to their region specifically to target what he perceives as the softest and weakest students. He mocks her defense and shatters her newly summoned skeleton with a single strike of blade. Just as he launches a massive crescent wave to finish her off, a burst of energy intercepts the blow. A group of classmates emerges from the mist to cover Ji Yao's retreat, creating a temporary standoff. At 12 p.m. in the cavern, Su Ming submits his treasure fragments to the system to finalize his own progression. The resulting energy surge triggers his first transition, evolving his job from a standard swordmaster into the legendary sword god. This advancement grants him a massive boost to all attributes and doubles the power, speed, and proficiency gain of his sword techniques through his upgraded mythical talent. Zhang Yunqing watches in awe as she successfully learns the Soul Healer scroll our hero provided. The skill, called Soul Boost, is a platinum-tier ability that provides a staggering 200% experience increase for the entire party. Su Ming is shocked by the sheer power of this leveling buff and realizes that Zhang Yunqing possesses incredible luck. Given that this skill is so valuable for his own growth, he immediately changes his mind about working alone. He officially agrees to help the girl clear the rest of the beginner dungeon. Jiang Yunqing is thrilled, explaining that the professional mercenaries her sister hired were all killed earlier, but she feels safe knowing Su Ming was able to solo the Goblin Den. Although he usually dislikes wealthy students who use money to buy shortcuts, he accepts the situation for the sake of the massive experience boost as they prepare to hunt the hidden boss together. Suddenly he notices a message on his interface. Since the sender is Ji Yao, he is immediately intrigued. This curiosity is sharply interrupted by a shift to a nearby scene of absolute carnage. A red-haired warrior named Li Chengguang is currently brutalizing a group of students, using his massive physical strength to slam a victim into the earth. An emerald strike of energy suddenly descends from the sky like a spear, identified as a demon-sealing arrow. This attack causes a massive shockwave upon impact, but it fails to stop the attacker. Since Li Chengguang is so powerful, he breaks through the skill with a single strike, leaving the archer Yan Zhe in a state of shock. When another student attempts to run toward the red-haired monster, the attacker responds with a crimson blade flying thrust. The blade sinks into the student's head, leaving him screaming in agony. As the smoke clears, Yanzi and Ji Yao stand together amidst a field of their fallen teammates. They realize they are facing a level of strength far beyond a normal student. Since Yanzi did his research before entering the dungeon, he identifies their opponent as the genius from the neighboring Wuyang city. This is Li Chengguang, a hidden job blade berserker with a perfect 10-star innate talent. The villain looks at the surviving duo with total contempt, noting that he still needs 15 more kills to reach the 50 required for his quest. Yanza is in a desperate situation as his mana is nearly empty and he can no longer summon undead to create distance. When he asks if backup is coming, Ji Yao looks at him with eyes full of sadness and confirms that they are truly alone. Li Chengguang narrows his eyes with murderous intent and decides to eliminate the annoying archer first. As he lunges forward, Ji Yao bravely leaps into his path and raises her staff to block the blow. Even though she is being pushed back by his overwhelming power, she screams for Yanzi to run. Li Chengguang mocks her for being a weakling who has no right to save anyone. A massive explosion of power consumes the area as his attack lands, leaving Ji Yao collapsed on the ground. Just as the villain prepares to finish her, a silhouette appears on the cliffside above. This is Su Ming, who has arrived after reading the message Ji Yao sent him. Interestingly, the message wasn't a cry for help, but a warning for him to stay away from the dangerous area. Our hero reflects on his past life, remembering how Ji Yao died in his arms while trying to protect him. Since she is still prioritizing the safety of others even in this life, he feels a surge of protective rage. Su Ming leaps from the cliff and lands gracefully between his friend and the attacker. He looks back with confident smile and tells her to stop worrying about everyone else, declaring that he will be the one to protect her this time. The Swordmaster immediately activates his sword control skill, causing his blade to levitate and spin with red sparks. Li Chengguang is caught off guard by this high-level technique and staggers back. The sword zips through the air to clash with the villain's weapon, allowing our hero to strike from above with a face contorted by fury. He calls the attacker a red-haired punk and delivers a crushing blow, demanding to know why he dared to hurt Ji Yao. While the two 10-star geniuses clash, Yanze watches with renewed hope. Suddenly, green healing crosses begin to pulse around his body. He is confused by the source of the magic until Zhang Yunqing appears with her staff. She introduces herself as a soul healer and Su Ming's teammate. While Yanza is relieved to finally have support, Ji Yao is quietly surprised as she remembers Su Ming saying he never works in a party. Zhang Yunqing admits she is still getting used to her new skills and needs a moment to fully stabilize them. Yanzi urges her to hurry since he is worried about Su Ming facing the berserker alone, but the healer reassures him that our boy is much stronger than he looks. Back in the center of the fight, the two warriors clash repeatedly. Li Chengguang clenches his teeth in frustration as he cannot understand how a mere swordmaster possesses such incredible footwork and speed, given that Su Ming continues to dodge his heavy strikes effortlessly. Li Chengguang openly acknowledges that he is impressed to find a fellow 10-star awakener in such a place. The crimson-haired warrior introduces himself as the elite blade berserker from Wuyang City and challenges Su Ming to a duel to prove which academy truly produces the stronger fighter. Our guy remains remarkably steady since he recognizes the name of his opponent. He recalls that this man was a major power player in his past life, yet he finds it interesting that they are crossing paths so much earlier this time around. He lunges forward to meet the challenge, declaring that they should let their weapons decide the winner. A violent energy erupts as their blades collide, sending sparks flying through the air. During the struggle, Li Chengguang executes a flying thrust that releases a red energy projectile. Su Ming initially wonders why the berserker would intentionally leave an opening for a flying blade, but he quickly realizes it was a trap. The energy from the strike transforms into bands that lock the hero in place, leaving him momentarily immobilized. Li Chengguang laughs and orders him to die as he sends a blade whistling toward the protagonist's head. Since he is a veteran of 1,000 battles, Su Ming doesn't panic. He activates his sword control skill, causing his weapon to spin at a high frequency to deflect the incoming threat. This creates a massive explosion of energy that shatters the surrounding ground and blows the smoke outward, effectively canceling the immobilization effect. He tells the villain that it is now his turn as he summons his sword back into his hand. Since Li Chengguang is currently weaponless after his throw, the swordmaster delivers a swift slash across his chest that draws blood and leaves the berserker wincing in agony. Li Chengguang tries to regain the advantage by pointing out that our boy has also released his grip on his sword to use the flying technique. However, Su Ming responds by activating his divine step. He moves with such incredible speed, performing a chaotic shadow strike that leaves his opponent unable to track his movements. The swordmaster reappears behind the villain and catches his returning blade, casually noting that he has his weapon back just in time. As this happens, Zhang Yunqing confirms that the healing for the rest of the group is complete. Yanza rush into the clearing to assist, but they stop mid-sentence in total shock. As the smoke has cleared, they see the legendary 10-star student standing tall while the fearsome Li Chengguang is forced to his knees. Ji Yao and Yanza can only gape with starry-eyed admiration, amazed that Su Ming finished off such a dangerous opponent in the short time it took them to recover. Unfortunately, the victory is short-lived. Zhang Yunqing spots a shadow moving in the smoke and screams a warning. Li Chengguang lunges forward with a jagged blade, claiming he has found an opening while the hero was distracted. Our boy appears to be struck and begins to fall, which causes Ji Yao to scream in terror. The villain roars and unleashes his ultimate technique, known as the Rain of Blades. Countless red swords fall from the sky like a storm, skewering the earth and creating a lethal blade formation. Li Chengguang laughs maniacally at the destruction he has caused, but Ji Yao refuses to give up. She tries to sprint into the danger zone to save her friend, forcing Yanze to physically hold her back. He warns her that rushing into the formation is suicide, but she yells in desperation, willing to sacrifice her life if it means protecting her savior. Just as the chaos reaches a peak, a calm voice echoes from the center of the destruction. Su Ming tells Ji Yao to listen to her teammate and stay away. Since he is still standing and composed, Ji Yao looks on in surprise, realizing her hero is far from defeated. Li Chengguang unleashes a brutal barrage on Su Ming, seemingly mangling him in a spray of blood. However, his shock grows as the wounded figure dissolves into energy, revealing itself as a mere decoy. Following a voice from behind, the sweating villain looks up to find the real swordmaster standing unharmed on a nearby cliff. Our boy moves in front of his opponent and casually sheathes his weapon. He notes that the berserker finally noticed the trick, pointing out that his enemy never imagined a standard swordmaster would possess such a high-level ability. A system interface reveals that Su Ming is equipped with the Shadow Blade set, a platinum-tier collection. As he has all 5 pieces active, he can use the Shadow Clone set skill while gaining additional dark attribute damage on all his attacks. Li Chengguang staggers back in disbelief since collectible gear sets are not supposed to exist within a beginner dungeon. He concludes that the only way Su Ming could have this power is by having already completed a major milestone. The protagonist confirms this suspicion, declaring that he finished his primary job change quest long ago. This revelation causes the villain to grind his teeth in fury, realizing he has been completely outclassed and beaten to the goal. Our hero lunges forward and delivers a barrage of sword slashes, treating the once feared genius as nothing more than prey. In a desperate move, Li Chengguang reaches for a blue diamond-shaped object amidst the chaos. Suddenly, a massive yellow light erupts from the ground and consumes the area, forcing Su Ming to shield his eyes from the glare. Yanzu and the others watch with their mouths open as the light carries the villain away. Yanze explains to the confused girls that the attacker used a life-saving accessory to force an emergency exit from the dungeon. Since these items cost tens of thousands of coins and cannot be found inside the trial, Su Ming realizes the neighboring city spent a fortune to protect their prize student. The scene shifts to the Academy Command Center where Principal Wang and a staff member monitor the real-time data. At 2 p.m., the staff members notice something strange on the map. She points out a red sector where multiple players died between 12 p.m. and 12:30 p.m. While the principal initially assumes they just ran into tough monsters, the data shows these students were actually killed by players from a different region. Principal Wang stands in shock, realizing the neighboring city is sabotaging their students. He orders the data logs saved, noting that Xuanjing Academy is often targeted as they usually rank at the bottom of the clearance lists. When the principal asks about their own students' progress, the staff member reports that things are going well. Surveillance footage shows large raid groups forming to push toward the dungeon boss stages. Zheng Tang is leading one of these charges, having climbed to level 9 and nearing level 10. Principal Wang is pleased to see the young master's potential, hoping he can take down the boss to win some pride for the school. The real-time leaderboard confirms that Zheng Tang is tied for first place. Yanze is also at the top, followed closely by Ji Yao at level 7 and Zhang Yunqing at level 8. Searching for his star pupil, the principal is horrified to find that Su Ming is not on the upper rankings. He demands to know the boy's current level, only to have his jaw drop when the staff member reveals he is only level 2. As the data shows he hasn't leveled up since getting the first kill title hours ago, the faculty believes he has completely stalled. In reality, at 2:30 p.m., a sword pierces through an elite fang beast. Our protagonist stands over the fallen monster as a system window confirms the kill and his advancement to level 14. This milestone unlocks a hidden set appearance for his gear. Ji Yao and Yanze are standing nearby, amazed that they have leveled up several times in just 2 hours. Yanze is now level 10, which qualifies him to challenge the standard dungeon boss. Su Ming credits their rapid growth to Zhang Yunqing's experience buff skill. The healer looks at him with gratitude, reminding him that she only has that amazing ability since he gave it to her. Ji Yao is thrilled with their party lineup, noting that they have a perfect balance of experience boosts, healing, ranged damage, and skeletal summons. Most importantly, she feels they are being carried by a total monster. Our hero remains humble, suggesting he is just freeloading off their strengths, but Ji Yao reminds him that they would have died against Li Chengguang without his intervention. While the group feels ready to clear the standard boss, Su Ming looks at his map and reveals that his target is much more difficult. He stands and reveals a blue scepter-like key he looted from the Fang Beast. He explains that he is aiming for the hidden boss, which requires solving 3 riddles from the dungeon notes. The first riddle mentions a silver moon and a cold abyss. He explains that since there is no weather system, the moon must refer to a specific moon-shaped plant. This leads him to a dark lake where the hidden entrance lies. He explains the second riddle was solved earlier when he collected an iris flower from the 8-monster zone. Finally, he uses the water ripple key mentioned in the third riddle. By holding the star-patterned key over the iris flower, he causes the items to glow with energy. This triggers a massive whirlpool in the center of the lake, leaving his teammates in total shock at his detective skills. As the water begins to churn, a giant dark sword emerges from the depths and points toward the sky, signaling the arrival of the ultimate challenge. This disturbance culminates in the emergence of a towering knight clad in heavy armor, seated atop a mechanical horse-like mount. The legendary guardian of the lake, known as the Lost Knight, has finally broken through the emerald waves of the cold abyss. Digital red warning boxes pulse through the air to signal the detection of this S-rank hidden threat. To prepare for the confrontation, a system notifications appear as Yanze and Ji Yao officially synchronize with the party, with the system designating Su Ming as the leader. Our boy looks back at his teammates with fierce determination and orders everyone to prepare for the battle of their lives. Once the combat officially initiates, 15 minutes pass with the group transitioned into a tactical formation. The red-armored knight is actively searching for a target, forcing the 4 warriors to hide as dark silhouettes within the tall grass. Yanze and Ji Yao crouch low in the brush with visible concern, questioning if hiding is actually a viable strategy or if they should attempt a different approach. As the ground shakes from the boss galloping past their position at high speed, Su Ming points out the primary problem. He realizes that with the knight's mount's speed reaching 500 points, their combined agility isn't even half of what is required to catch him. This overwhelming power is put on full display when the perspective shifts to a group of ordinary students nearby who are screaming in terror. They are caught off guard by a level 19 hidden boss appearing in a beginner area and are instantly cut down by the knight's flashing blade. From the safety of the trees, Su Ming and his team observe this carnage. Zhang Yunqing notes that since they are the ones who summoned this monster, they have a responsibility to act quickly. Ji Yao reports that she has successfully followed orders by using all her mana potions to set up a series of delayed traps, prompting our hero to signal Yanze and Yunqing to begin the next phase of the plan. While staring into the distance, the protagonist reflects on the rarity of this moment. In his past life, he never challenged this specific hidden boss because most awakeners are too afraid to risk such a fight so early in their journey. He understands that since so few people ever decode the riddles, the knight's true form and its massive speed stat remained a secret to almost everyone. To kill this monster, he realizes they must first knock it off its horse to negate its mobility advantage. The execution begins as Yanzi draws back a green bowstring and unleashes a barrage of energy arrows in a multi-shot hunt. Although the arrows impact all around the Lost Knight and create green explosions, they simply bounce off the boss's level 5 heavy armor. This attack is actually a feint to switch the Guardian's aggression. Once the boss looks toward the cliff, Yanzi confirms he has pulled the target's attention, allowing Zhang Yunqing to cast a spell that creates a thick cloud of fire and smoke. Our hero explains the logic of this strategy, noting that the first step involves Yanzi pulling the boss toward them, while the second step uses Yunqing's smokescreen to blind the rider. He finds it clever that they are using a trick learned from the Goblin Den to hide the trail entrance. As the Lost Knight rides blindly into the smog, the ground beneath him erupts. Dozens of skeletal hands burst from the earth to grab the mechanical horse's legs, pinning it in place with a massive skeleton horde. A purple magical seal expands on the ground to activate the delayed trap, which Ji Yao explains is a technique where basic summoning skills are stacked together. To further secure the kill, Zhang Yunqing raises her staff to cast a soul drain, which slows the knight's movements with blue energy. Su Ming watches the success of these combined steps from above, acknowledging that without the teamwork of his allies to lock the boss down, he might not have been able to farm such a high-level enemy. With the knight finally immobilized, Su Ming descends from the ledge and grabs the boss from behind with all his might to force the rider off his mount. Due to this sudden impact, the red-armored knight loses his balance and is thrown from the saddle while the horse is pushed back. As the dust settles and the knight lies on the ground, Zhang Yunqing and Ji Yao celebrate the success of knocking the boss off his horse. However, Ji Yao remains serious and focused, warning the group not to lower their guard since this is only the first phase of the fight. 10 minutes earlier, the party had gathered to discuss the risks of Su Ming's plan. Ji Yao pointed out that while the strategy was solid, it would completely drain her and Yunqing's magical reserves. She was concerned that they wouldn't have any power left to damage the boss after the initial takedown. Our hero responded with a confident smile, telling them it was fine and that they just needed to leave the rest of the battle to him. Back in the present, Su Ming prepares to take on the dismounted Lost Knight alone and rushes forward with extreme speed. The two engage in a rapid exchange of blows where sparks fly as our boy parries a heavy strike and counters with several quick slashes. This battle creates a massive whirlwind of energy in the center of the forest, leaving Yanzi in awe of the hero's ability to go blow for blow with a hidden boss. Even though he is impressed, Yanzi grips his bow and tries to jump in to help since he still has some skills left. Ji Yao immediately stops him, reminding him that Su Ming told them to trust him and that they have their own specific mission to complete. Our protagonist then activates his Divine Step skill and becomes enveloped in a fiery red aura. Because of this boost, he moves forward with intense speed and strikes the Lost Knight multiple times from different angles, while the boss struggles to defend against the heavy impacts. Su Ming appears behind the boss with cold eyes, noting that the Guardian is far too slow without its mount. A system window confirms that the knight's actual speed has dropped to 55 points, proving it is nothing special on its own. Su Ming swings his sword in a wide toward the knight and prepares a final strike to end the fight. A massive explosion of light and energy consumes the area, but the Lost Knight manages to survive by holding up its sword to block. Unfortunately, a warning notification pops up for Su Ming showing that his weapon durability has dropped to 7%. This is a problem since the low durability greatly reduces his damage output, and the boss's heavy armor attribute makes it difficult to finish him off. The knight realizes he is in danger and turns to run back toward the forest to reunite with his horse. Our boy watches him flee and acknowledges that the boss is clever for trying to regain his mounted speed advantage. However, he remains menacingly happy knowing the horse is no longer available. Elsewhere, the horse is shown bound by blue magical chains and ropes. Yanzi and Ji Yao are pulling the chains to restrain the beast, while Yunqing uses her magic to slow it down. They are determined to keep the horse trapped, because they know this task is the critical mission Su Ming entrusted to them. This connects back to the final part of the hero's plan, where he explained that while he handled the boss, his allies had the vital job of ensuring the rider could never get back on his mount. Su Ming initiates the battle with a powerful draw slash, forcing the heavily armored Lost Knight to defend itself. Because of the scale of the attack, the boss responds with a water-based energy eruption that shatters the surrounding ground. The Swordmaster manages to stay safe by weaving through the debris, taking note of the monster's high-level skills while maintaining a low stance for his next move. Looking up at the towering knight, our boy begins to channel a red energy arc around his body. He utilizes his sword control skill to send his weapon flying through the air, delivering a series of high-speed impacts against the boss. While the hero maintains intense focus on manipulating his blade, a system warning appears to show that his weapon durability has plummeted to a critical 3%. He continues to leap through the air and clash with the armored knight, but he realizes he cannot afford to waste any more of his weapon's remaining life. Luckily, he notices red runes and cracks spreading across the knight's chest plate, signaling that the heavy armor is on the verge of breaking. He continues with multiple sword slashes. The Lost Knight lunges forward in response, as it drives its blade through the hero's chest. Blood sprays across the silver armor, and the knight looms over the wounded warrior. However, the image of the hero dissolves, revealing it was only a decoy. The real Su Ming appears from behind, remarking that the trick is just as effective against monsters as it is against human players. Standing in the blue mist, the boy radiates an aura as his full equipment set activates. He offers a confident smile, clearly satisfied with the power boost provided by his gear. He uses his sword control once more to send his blade zipping through the air, causing slashes. This relentless pressure causes the knight's heavy armor to finally shatter into fragments. As Su Ming leaps high into the air to finish the job, his current sword completely shatters because its durability is fully depleted. This doesn't slow him down, as he reaches to draw out a sleek, dark energy shadow blade. He holds the new weapon with a smile, knowing the fight is over. By 3:30 in the afternoon, the scene shifts to the communications room at Xuanjing Academy. Principal Wang enters the tech space to find several other principals already waiting for him on holographic screens. One principal mockingly points out that the academy from Xuanjing is the last to arrive, suggesting that perhaps no students there have been able to challenge a boss yet. Principal Wang tries to defend his school by noting that clearance results usually arrive after 3, but the other leaders remind him that his academy is typically dead last anyway. The principal remains serious, explaining that his delay was caused by real-time data showing that outside players snuck into his school's dungeon. He accuses the other cities of causing trouble, specifically pointing out that the victims were killed with blade skills similar to those used by the Wuyang Academy genius, Li Chengguang. The principal from Wuyang, known as Old Si, becomes defensive and demands evidence, claiming that Li Chengguang is currently busy challenging their own city's final boss. Other principals begin to boast about their own progress, with some academies already pushing their bosses into a second phase. Principal Wang looks down at the 2 Tower Society tokens in his hand with a worried expression. He realizes that if his academy doesn't achieve a first clear this year, they will be left with the lowest number of qualification tickets in their history. He places all his hopes on Zhang Tang, believing him to be the student closest to clearing a boss. Meanwhile, back at 15 minutes past 3, Zhang Tang is shown in the forest desperately ordering his teammates to charge. He screams for them to use all their mana to kill the final boss, a massive one-horned beast man named Shinba. Unfortunately, the level 15 monster proves to be too powerful, striking down students with bloody punches. As the other students cry out in terror that they are no match for the beast, a bruised and exhausted Jiang Tang refuses to give up, obsessed with claiming the dungeon reward for himself. He suddenly receives a message from the scarred Ren Xiaoman pleads for revenge, sending Jiang Tang into a disheveled fury. Vowing to avenge her by seizing the dungeon's final reward, he lunges at the beastman Shinba with his mace raised high. Unfortunately for him, the monster suddenly vanishes into the night before the blow can land. This causes the surrounding students to freeze in confusion while the forest is bathed in a strange blue digital glow. Jiang Tang stops his assault and looks up in disbelief since digital grids and particles are filling the air to signal a massive system event. An announcement banner appears in the dark sky for every player to see, declaring that the hidden boss has been defeated. The system congratulates the victorious party for slaying the lost knight and instructs all players to prepare for their return home. Back at the lake bed, Su Ming stands over the dissolving remains of the knight with a calm smile. He observes that the battle is finally over while his teammates watch him from a distance in total shock. Ji Yao is filled with a sense of relief and awe as she realizes that Su Ming has successfully achieved the impossible by soloing the hidden boss. The scene shifts to the Academy Command Center where Principal Wang and others stare at a blindingly display. On side screens, the principals from other cities are equally stunned and begin arguing that the victory must belong to their own elite students like Li Chengguang. However, Principal Wang's eyes widen behind his glasses as a notification reveals that the winning school is actually Xuanjing Academy. Outside the dungeon, a total frenzy erupts among the students who are stunned to learn that a hidden boss even existed. They wonder which legendary team could have pulled off such a feat, assuming it must have been Jiang Tang's group. Meanwhile, our hero stares at his own results screen as an experience bar confirms he has reached level 16. Jia runs up with excitement because her own level, along with the rest of the party, has jumped up by 2 stages. Su Ming turns to face his exhausted but happy friends and suggests they split the loot before the exit portal opens. Interestingly, Yanze and Zhang Yunqing both protest, claiming they don't need any rewards since they are just happy to be alive and leveled up. Yanze explains that from being saved from Li Chenggang's blade to watching the hero solve the hidden secret, he feels he didn't contribute enough to justify taking any treasure. The protagonist ignores these protests and taps his interface to distribute the loot. He presents a holographic spirit-suppressing decay bow to a stunned Yanze, followed by a white heart-soul necklace for Zhang Yunqing and a glowing item for Ji Yao. Both girls look at the equipment with wide eyes as our boy offers a warm smile. He explains that since the boss dropped exclusive rewards tailored to each of their specific jobs, it proves that the dungeon itself acknowledges their contribution. He encourages them by stating that without their help, the challenge never would have been completed. As the system confirms the final clearance of the raging forest, a blue portal opens in the middle of the woods. A final stat box shows the clear time was exactly 8 hours and 20 minutes. Su Ming notes that the dungeon is entering the settlement phase, where contribution rewards are handled in the real world. He informs his team that an exit portal will appear beside every surviving player, so he looks back one last time to congratulate them on surviving the challenge. Outside the portal at 4:30 p.m., the atmosphere is heavy with sorrow. Many students have collapsed to their knees in tears because their friends and loved ones haven't returned. Ji Yao cries as she realizes only 10 students from their class survived, and Yanzi notes that he is the only one left from his original squad. Standing in the middle of this grieving crowd, the Swordmaster reflects on how the world has been since the first awakening day. He views it as a survival of the fittest environment, where some find joy and power, while others are broken by loss. He concludes that only by constantly becoming stronger can anyone survive this insane world. Suddenly, a screen featuring Principal Wang appears above the students. He delivers a stern but paternal speech, explaining that this dungeon was their final lesson as graduating students. He tells them that being an awakened one represents responsibility and peace, rather than just money or honor. Ji Yao watches Su Ming with tears in her eyes and asks if he feels sad or happy about the loss of their classmates. Su Ming calmly tells her that those classmates will revive. Just then, Principal Wang announces that the true meaning of this lesson involves understanding the value of life, and he reveals that everyone who died in the dungeon will actually revive in 30 minutes. As the students shout in disbelief and relief, the principal explains that the lost ones will soon return to their sides. Su Ming turns and begins to walk away from the crowd, leaving Ji Yao in a state of shock. She watches him go and wonders how he could possibly have known about the revival before the principal even mentioned it. Digital notifications flash as the dungeon settlement phase begins. A series of profile cards appear to break down the efforts of the survivors, beginning with Li Guanran, who managed to take down a few rabbits and a chicken for a small handful of coins. Song Jue follows with a slightly higher contribution for defeating an elite cat, while Zhang Xiaoyu shows more significant effort by clearing out dozens of monkeys and jackals. However, these numbers pale in comparison when the name Su Ming appears. The boy's achievement list is staggering, as he single-handedly eliminated hundreds of beasts and cleared the goblin mines. Because he completed his job change quest and conquered the hidden boss without taking damage, the system awards him a perfect S rank and the Rookie King title. This honor provides a permanent boost to his attributes and skill proficiency. Consequently, his total dungeon contribution reaches a nearly impossible 91%. Inside the academy chamber, Principal Wang stands in awe while staring at these statistics. When Su Ming finally walks into the room, the principal notes that he is late, only for the guy to casually respond that he simply overslept. The principal ignores the excuse as he is too busy celebrating the fact that Su Ming secured first place not just in the school, but across the entire city. Looking at the final rankings, Su Ming sees his name at the top at level 16, leaving his classmates and rivals trailing far behind. He realizes that since the ceremony is over, there is no longer any need to hide his power or modify his information. He knows that from this point forward, the gap between his strength and that of his peers will only continue to grow. Suddenly, the atmosphere turns comical as the principal loses his composure and begins sobbing while clinging tightly to the hero's leg. He thanks him profusely, explaining that Xuanjing Academy is usually in last place and has finally been able to hold its head high. Due to Su Ming's success, the rival principal from Wuyang Academy was left speechless after years of mocking them. The principal is especially thrilled that Su Ming outranked the famous Li Chengguang, who apparently suffered an accident that delayed his progress.